What's happening, family? So in today's video I will do a quick walkthrough, as in breakdown recap of the Euro USD session of yesterday. So let me pull up my window in front of me where it all began. So basically what I noticed was on the 50-minute time frame, right? After my sell positions I got here, I got out here, and I just removed all those previous marking to have a bit clearer chart. And at this point I noticed, okay, we had some liquidation of the most recent internal liquidity or inducement here, and price also kind of retested this here order flow, right, or POI, and was showing a reaction from that area, right, as in something like this. So I thought, okay, we have liquidation, check. Mitigation, well, not actually mitigation, because mitigation to me would indicate a close within the POI, so let me call it therefore a retest. And nevertheless, we had also major inducement here from a major structure perspective, but as you can see, price never came to liquidate that area, at least not yet, right? We don't know if it still may or may not come down to liquidate that area, or push the price higher from this point and then create eventually a new higher high like that, right? After something like this happens. So at this point I was getting interested into buying positions, right? At least until this point here, right? So why? Because in my mind this was the most recent internal bearish inducement area, right? And because I saw this here as a smart money trap, right? As in, price will come here, it will manipulate early aggressive sellers here. Why? Because they may think this as a BOS to the downside, and this here as the zone that broke structure, right? So I thought, well, it should be interesting to see what will happen, because in my opinion I thought price will come here and trigger all those pending orders, will give a reaction obviously, and eventually go higher to take out everyone who had entered here for sells, right, who are now basically trapped, right? And the most logical area where everyone will put their stop losses is just here, right? And that's why I thought, well, if this happens, eventually price should continue higher, stop hunt all those stop losses, while perhaps also taking out this here inducement, which I am focusing on, right, as my potential TP, should I get a proper setup for a buy, obviously, right? So that was basically the plan. And I got out, I got up early. As we can see, it was like 4:50 a.m. in the morning, so very early. And I basically took my first screenshot, and sometime later I took another one, and basically there was still not a lot of volume in the market, right? And sometime later, just before London session opened, I again looked, and still I didn't see anything interesting happening from this point. At least I thought, well, let's see if London session may perhaps push the price lower, take out this low, right? And while doing so, coming down and taking out that low, will it create liquidity within this here leg or not? As in, well, if it does that not, then more often than not, price may come back for a mitigation of this area, right? Because here this high was taken out by these candles, but price closed below, right? So should price come like this and close below this here most recent internal low, then it could get interesting to look for potential buys at that area, right? Because then everyone who is waiting to be triggered will be left behind, as in their positions will not be triggered, right? But you know, there's another scenario I was looking at potentially, but my main focus still lies on the fact that, okay, everyone has their pending orders waiting here, or at least are looking for sells here, right? And price will trigger them like this. Everyone has their stop losses there, and at some point, eventually, it will hunt those stop losses. While doing so, it will take out this here liquidity, presumably, right? And again, whatever happens after that, you know, price may then perhaps do something like this, right? Or I thought, or eventually it may continue higher, give us bullish internal inducement here, and then target either this here engineered liquidity, or like I mentioned earlier, it will continue higher and create that new higher high, right? So basically all ideas and something to look out for, possible scenarios. Yeah, so at this point, I noticed, okay, price now comes very close, right, to that order block, or, you know, to me, smart money trap, right? So I was basically keeping an eye on that area, right? By that time, I noticed this here very minor candle-wise pullback, as in internal most recent liquidity, right? Previous one would be that one, and then, you know, from a you know, major structure-wise, I could say, right? This here is technically our most recent pullback liquidity, as in here, right? Structure-wise pullback, while this one is definitely a candle-wise. So interesting area, but this one holds more value to me, right? Well, as this one is the engineered liquidity. So if this one should fail, even this one should fail, right? We can expect that price will definitely react from this area, right? Or, you know, in combination with a mitigation after liquidation took place here, and mitigation perhaps here and then, right? Well, that's the thing. No one knows. That's why I would like to react instead of, you know, anticipate. But again, the basic idea was trigger all those aggressive sellers here, hunt those stop losses there, while taking out here this internal bearish inducement, right? And my entry would then be here. After everyone is triggered and price gives a reaction, it will presumably collect here the bullish inducement, and from there I will look for buys until here, like very minor positions nevertheless, but as we can see, I scaled in a few times and still ended up with a decent amount of profits. So still not a bad session after all. Now at some point, yeah, here I went to the lower time frame, right? So 3 minutes, and at this point I let me, right? So this was that inducement area from what I showed you guys earlier here on the 15-minute time frame. It was this area here, right? On the 15-minute time frame. And let me again go here. Yeah, at this point I thought, well, basically price is doing the same thing. Here, look, where people are looking for buys. Why? Because they see this as their order block. They see this as a BOS, right? So this is the zone that broke structure, impulsive move, everything. And one can add even the liquidity concept here, internal liquidity, imbalance, everything, open price gap, however you want to call it, right? So to me, it was getting interesting at this point to buy. But for me, I would like to buy after this year liquidity is taken out, right? So price came with a lot of volume into this year POI, and at that point it reacted, look, and I also had drawn out by then my inducement, internal bullish inducement from this year move, right? And you cannot see it here on the chart, but technically that POI where price kind of topped out in and where those sellers were manipulated here, right, into those aggressive sells earlier, right? So price was definitely moving down, and here at the lower time frame I noticed, okay, it even manipulates buyers, right, as in from this here order block. So just like how price came into this area, will give reaction and hunt all those stop losses eventually, right? In my mind, it was about to do the same here. Imagine that now everyone who was looking for buys from this order block or smart money trap are triggered, right? And where are their stop losses collected? Here, right? So now price may give a reaction, come down, collect all stop losses while taking out this year liquidity that I was focusing on to be liquidated, right? And then I thought, well, and then that inducement, right, from the 15-minute time frame would be my TP to get out, because after that price may calm down, we don't know, or at least give a reaction, or, you know, may continue higher and then something like that, right? So definitely many possible outcomes, good ones and bad ones. We should focus always on both, you know, to think a bit three-dimensional, if that makes sense, right? Where we could then anticipate, you know, staying out of positions to avoid unnecessary losses, low probability entries, and only to participate in high probability entries, preferably, you know, conservative entry signals, criterias. But yeah, we can definitely also look for aggressive entry criterias if, and like in this case, technically everything aligns perfectly, right? Even though this here is internal inducement, remember, the actual 15-minute time frame inducement sits here. So this here single leg from the 15-minute time frame is basically this here internal structure. That's why if price reacts to this area and I get a signal to buy here, I will not wait until, you know, price comes here, because then price may do this, stop everyone out, collect that liquidity I mentioned earlier, which also is my TP, and then perhaps it may come down to eventually make a major move to the upside, right? And this here may just be a sweep, and then this here may be a confirmed BOS, as in our next higher high, right? But yeah, everything can happen, right? But I was focusing on buying here, but only after liquidity is liquidated, right? Or at least I see some, signals, criteria from the lower time frame that align with my, where was it? Here, right? With my higher time frame, major structure perspective. So let's continue. Yeah, so at this point, I thought, well, price will come back to take out all the stop losses from this point, right? Whereas before everyone was triggered, while doing so, it will trigger my position, right? Because my focus was still on this here liquidity, right? As in here. So patience is the name of the game for the time being. And here at this point, my position got triggered. Yeah, as you can see, it got triggered, right? And then price came back. So at this point, me being me, I was waiting for any kind of reaction. So basically, as I do a lot, can place a 2-for-2 position based on my first one, right? As in identical position. This time via stop order, right? Because now price is hovering between my entry and stop loss. So if it continues higher, it will trigger my position. If not, I will take one loss and will focus on, more extreme areas. But to me, I thought, well, if price should come down, it will do so for one reason: to either retest or mitigate this area here, right? As in, this was the last attempt to push the price lower before price eventually took out and closed above that area, right? And then it pulled back and then continued higher. So we have our liquidity area and mitigation area sitting very close to each other, with also a little bit imbalance in between here. So yeah, price could definitely go a bit more lower. That's why I placed my stop loss below this here candle, right? Just to give it a bit breather. And basically it was a 7.5 hour position, so still not bad, right? So yeah, let's continue. At this point, yeah, I mean, here we were just shy from 2 minutes on the clock, and almost with 1 minute to go, I saw an obvious reaction, and I thought, let's just place my second stop order before price decides to go higher from this point, right? Because now everyone's stop losses are collected, and again, to me, if price should continue a bit more lower, it would be to fill up this here imbalance and perhaps retest and or mitigate this here extreme unmitigated order flow, right? After liquidation took place. So definitely good confluences, and to me, this here calculated position is definitely worth taking the risk, right? Sometimes the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. And, it feels good every now and then to come out of our comfort zones. Yeah, I mean, if it not delivers our profit that we would like to have, it will definitely deliver a very crucial and educational point of view, and that will add to our trading style, basically. So yeah, either way, how you look at it is always a win-win to me. So let's continue. Yeah, so and at this point I changed the color to purple, identifying or indicating, I mean, 2 positions running at the moment. And then price again came back, right? So as you can guess, I placed another stop order, right? And now with the next candle, price again pushed higher and triggered my third identical position. That's why I changed again the color, this time to blue, as in third position. And then price went a bit higher, and then it came very quick down again. And at this point, you see, I thought, well, even though this gray candle may look like a pin bar, or however you want to call it, it still made a higher low in comparison with the previous candle, right? So yeah, that's why I again placed at this point a identical position before, you know, price decides to continue higher, right? And as we can see here, I changed the color to yellow, as in fourth position, right? And after some time I looked and price was pushing higher and higher, so that was all good. And at this point I thought, well, perhaps now it will, you know, again, if let's say the POI was somewhere here like that, right, all the stop losses here and my TP just above that, I thought, well, perhaps now it will do that, right? Or it will pull back, continue higher, pull back, take out inducement, and then the long way, right? Instead of like that immediately, the short way, because this well, seldom happens, 1 in, you know, 1,000 perhaps, if even that. But you know, the market never pushes the price in one single impulsive move. It's always with a corrective phase, as we can see here, right? So price indeed came back all the way down here, and even all the way down here. And as you can guess, right, I thought, let me go back one. So I thought at this point, well, let me place another limit order here, identical, if price comes here, to take out the candle that took out the structure-wise liquidity earlier here, right, and fill up that imbalance here. While doing so, perhaps even retest and or mitigate this one, remember? So that's why I at this point placed my fifth identical position, this time via limit order. And yeah, price came, triggered my position evidently, and then, you know, sometime later I looked and now I noticed, yes, look at this, right? So this here is now a mitigation to me. Why? Because this black candle did close within this area, right? And this gray candle was about to close above that black candle that not only took out, you know, this here liquidity, I mean structure low, right, but also closed within this POI. So that black candle here, very important to me. So price has to close above it, and then, you know, I could consider another identical position before price continues higher, right, via a stop order again, right? Well, price came and tried to push even lower, but again, what did it do? It took out the previous candle low, just like it did here, but it closed above. So I thought, well, if the price wants to push any lower, it will do so. So I was keeping my eyes on this here price action. But after seeing this, you know, I thought, well, not even think about it, you know, just do it, right? So I placed or confirmed my fifth identical position to my first 4 positions, right? As in 5 for 5 I was going. Well, I believe this one is the 5th, right? Let me go back. Yeah, sorry, this one, the yellow one was the 4th. This green one was the 5th, and now I was going for my 6th position, seeing this candle. So yeah, at this point, the price kept push higher. That's why I changed the color again, this time to dark blue. And I thought, well, at this point, we should or could expect some reaction, because now this here liquidity. So it may confuse people into selling here, right? Perhaps even a mitigation here, instead of going immediately to the downside from here like that, right? It will perhaps do this, right? And these are definitely correct concepts. However, just because this here did top out in a smart money trap, I know price may push higher to hunt those stop losses and also to liquidate that, higher time frame major structure bearish inducement until there, right? So to me, even these concepts are definitely correct. It's at the wrong place to utilize, as in smart money trap here, right? Traders got manipulated, reaction, but following the current sentiment, we are bullish. Liquidity was taken out, so I will still be interested in looking for buys instead of sells like this. Now, had this happened at an extreme area after liquidation had happened, this would be change of character, right? This will be BOS, then 100%. I will go with a entry either here or here. But since none of those happened, I'm just focusing on the important, matter of things at hand. So just looking for buys, right? And at some point later, I noticed, well, this here may look like liquidity, but remember guys, it's internal in structure of this here move, right? So yes, this may happen, perhaps, right? But to me, I will show it to you in the end, because you cannot see it here, but you can definitely see it on the 15-minute time frame, right? Because this here, I believe, was it this one or the combination of these, I believe, yeah, right? So on the 3 minutes, we see a couple of candles here, right? But I will show it to you on the 15-minute time frame at the end, where I basically scaled in. It was after a retest / mitigation of this here POI, because again, it took out a previous low here, and then it went higher, and it basically left an unmitigated extreme area here. So that's why this here I saw as a range, right? And now price had mitigated this year high, so it was time to come down to mitigate this year low before presumably continuing higher, right? At least that was what I think would happen. And at some point here, right, price indeed came down all the way here, and I took a screenshot at 5:10 p.m. right? So 5 minutes after New York session closed, I just took a screenshot of what price action was looking like. Excuse me. And at some point later, I even took a screenshot after Asian session opened at 1 a.m. here, right? And yeah, I basically saw that price still was ranging between this year, right? So yeah, I think perhaps one could look for an entry here, because it does fit all the criteria, right, to potential scale in or stack positions. But again, because this here is all internal, these make it a bit lower probability when, you know, we enter at positions like here, or even that bearish major inducement if we short here. Then, you know, the chances are higher, right, that our TP here, conservative or aggressive TP, will be hit, because we enter at a pinnacle point of a major structure, higher time frame, key level, right? But at some point I basically set some alerts, right? Because I thought, well, if this here low is taken out, then price indeed may come to mitigate that one. So at that point, I, just set my alerts, everything. And here, right, at 3 a.m., almost like 2 hours later, my alert went off. I rushed to the charts and noticed, okay, price indeed came all the way down to, take out this low now. And will it mitigate this area, yes or no? Practically, I was waiting to see that, right? Because then, again, I would have liquidation, mitigation, right? It went a bit more down. And at this point, you see, here, I basically, with here, I was, 1 minute to go. And here with 11 seconds, I just thought, you know what, it's late, I'm sleepy, I'm not going to monitor the charts, right? So I basically placed my limit order, I believe it was 6th position, right? So based on this, but price may or may not do that. Instead of retest and or mitigate that POI, it may just come into that area here and then do something like that. We don't know. That's why I took precaution and just instead of a refined entry from here, which is totally fine, but just in case I did not want price to do this and I'm waiting here and price leaves me, right, then I will have to wait instead of chase it until it creates some new something like this, so I can enter then again here. But because this is in the middle of a move, this is at a extreme point, these are higher probability that it will work out, because technically price has no reason to go lower, because again, liquidation, if inducement happened here, liquidation mitigation happened here, and even this one got mitigated, remember? So efficient, inefficient, right? That was basically what I was seeing. And that's why I placed my limit order. And at this point, you see, price came and it just kissed, right? That candle here before again making its move up, right? And that's why I went with a limit order, again, extreme area, only unmitigated area, the previous POI mitigated, liquidation, mitigation. Yeah, so now I had made my position tool a bit broader because it was almost through its, area, territory. I don't know the correct term, but at this point, I again got interested in looking for buys, as in scale in. Why? Because this. Now, remember, this here is now retested. Yes, given it's not mitigated because it only wicked in and closed all the way here. Nevertheless, this one did mitigate, as in close within this POI, so this one was definitely efficient to me. This one, you know, yes, no, one could say, yeah, it retested that area and created efficiency, but you know, from my experience, whenever this happens, price tends to come back to actually close within that area instead of just kissing it and then while doing so taking out that candle, and if it rejects to go lower but instead goes higher, I will then have a bit more confidence and confirmation that I can enter like that, right? Should that happen. And if not, if price pushes higher, I had this here in mind, this here candle, entry, stop loss, mitigation, continuation, right? Again, after this here was retested. Yes. So at this point, look, 1 minute to go. I was keeping my eye on this candle because the previous ones, the black one, the gray one, right? It only took out every time the high, but it closed all the time here. So if this candle now closes above this here high, I thought, well, I can base my next entry on this here candle for mitigation, and then my position will be triggered, right? And with 2 seconds to go, I did just that. So I was noticing, okay, price was about to close above this candle, so here entry based on this gray candle, right? And then stop loss just a bit below, right? So price came back, it triggered my position to the pip, and then it started to move higher and higher, and then it started to react from that area. And yeah, so basically, because here price has left some imbalance, you know, with this candle, I thought, well, after seeing this, again, let me place a 2 for 2 based on this here position, right? As in, okay, price comes back because the first one basically kissed it to the pip, right? That's why this here imbalance was still available for us to be filled or, you know, to be mitigated, right? Again, because I base my entry on this here candle like that. So to me, if this should happen, you know, limit order and my 2 for 2 based on this here will also be triggered. And as you can see, again, price came just, you know, again to the pip, right? Just took out this low. It did not even come and close within that area as in mitigate. It just retested, and yeah, from the looks of it, it was about to go higher, and eventually it did. And I believe it was at this point I really could not hold my eyes open any longer, so I went back to bed. And sometime later, you know, not that long even, I mean, here we are 3:19 and 3:49, so basically yeah, not that long after that, right? I got an alert that my take profit was hit, so I added those values, and as we can see, I took 6 identical positions here with a 7.5 R, and got these 2 additional positions after Asian session opened, and price came back to mitigate, or in this case retest, this here extreme one after liquidation took place here and even here, because price did not make a new higher high earlier here, and now it did. While doing so, stopping everyone out here, hitting that bearish internal, I mean major inducement here, so hitting my TP, and yeah, I had my profits already this early, so definitely good start of the day. Now let me, because I also took a screenshot from the 15-minute time frame, obviously. Now remember the candle that I was pointing out earlier, it was basically this here 15-minute time frame candle, right? Again, after this here 15-minute time frame, liquidation took place, and then instead of making a new high here like that, price came, took that one out, and here it did the same, but instead of taking this low out now, it came back to create efficiency. Why? Because again, earlier here we already had that mitigation here, remember? Or retest. And from the 15-minute time frame, even this one is a retest, and this one also. So and as we can see here, right, look how beautiful those smart money traps work, right? As in, price came, it triggered everyone, but eventually, you know, it came all the way up, collected everyone stop losses here, and now liquidating this inducement, hitting my TP. So at this point, price may still, you know, come here to take out this here now inducement, right? As in, let me go. Well, actually, it did something like this now, right? So everything here is internal structure, right? So price may or may not do this, and then collect liquidity here to eventually push the price higher, and then you know, create our change of character, right? Again, there, after liquidation, mitigation or retest, as we can see, happened here, right? So, but on the other hand, price also obviously may push higher, do something like that, and then continue higher, take out some major swing high here perhaps, and then come back, take out this here major inducement, and then continue higher, or, you know, come back. So basically, we don't know yet. You know, I like to wait for price action to show a bit more of its hand to go with before I rush into positions. So yeah, that's basically it, family. I mean, 8 positions, you know, definitely made a decent amount of good profits. Every position was, by the way, taking with a fixed based risk, as in I took every position with $100, right? So basically $100 risk times 6 position times 7.5 R. And the same goes for here, right? $100 risk per position times 2 positions times 7 R. Right, so yeah, definitely not a bad session, and I hope you guys enjoyed the quick walk through, the recap, and you know, breakdown of this very short but quick session. And I wish everyone a blessed day, and trade safe, trust your system, and trade responsible. See you in the next video, guys.